Good morning, everyone. I know it's not far off afternoon. I hope you're all well. So I'm going to do an energy reading. I'm just going to do one card to represent the energy of the week and what might be showing up in your business. And just to remind you that the 4-week blogging course starts this Wednesday evening, and it technically runs for 4 weeks. And it's approximately about 2 hours each week, and it'll be like partly educational, teaching you different, like a step-by-step process, but also I'm going to use the 4 weeks to help everyone get a certain amount of time each, so everyone gets equal amount of time to ask things that are really, really important to their business. And part of it includes a lot of bonuses that are already in the blogging course for spiritual entrepreneurs. I just want to make sure, like, software changes all the time. Sometimes rules change with free software. So anyone who's already bought the blogging course for me will get access to this 4-week course. And as I said, it's a great course for anyone who's already a blogger and anyone who wants to start blogging. And the basic course is about teaching. One of the biggest things that I see is that there's a lot of things that people, they approach their blog more like a blogger that is like a travel blogger, a food blogger. I talked about that the other day. But also, they're not looking at their blogging from a business perspective. And of course, you want to make sure that your business is aligned with the topics and things and from a spiritual perspective. But strategy can make a huge difference. Strategy can be a major difference in getting no traffic and getting a lot of traffic. And that's how I'm going to be teaching that. So it's a 4-week, and it's an amazing offer at only £99, right? So if any of you want to join us, let me know. If you want more details and you want the link, I'll let you know. Okay, so we're on this the 2nd April. So we're on the 2nd of April, and this is an archetypal energy reading for the 2nd of April 2023. But often when these things come up, they're not just about the energy of the week. Archetypal cards represent traits and behavior patterns and things that we do that's in us all, right? And it can be a really great way to help us explore our light and our shadow element, our strengths and our vulnerabilities, right? So today's card is the Shape Shifter, okay? And it's a 1-card reading this week. Now, the Shape Shifter has the ability to shift through different levels of consciousness, okay? The shapeshifter has the ability to manifest in different ways. So we think about, in whatever way you look at it that is a shapeshifter, it has the ability to move into, even if you think about different timelines, different patterns, the future, the past, the present, and it can manifest into all sorts of possibilities. And it can manifest in the light, and it can manifest into the dark, right? So if we think about in a business, how does that apply in a business? So in a business, if you think about, everything is energy, right? And when energy is in its purest form and it's of the light, and it's basically, if you think about, well, let's go to the soul, and we think about the soul. When we're creating and manifesting a soul line business, we want to basically be guided at soul level, right? We want to, as much as possible, get out of the head, get out of the egoic mind that is dragging us along and be guided at soul level, because the soul often knows, is much wiser than the ego, right? And when you work at the soul level, the energy flows, and the energy, it's this clear channel that kind of manifest and bring all sorts of, and I suppose there's an element of the shapeshifter, and what I mean is that energy can help us manifest and get more powerful and shape shift, and to help the business shift and grow and manifest into all these amazing opportunities and these amazing things, if we think about the business as a form of energy, right? But if that energy is not coming from the light, it's not coming from the heart and the soul at a really pure level, it can manifest all sorts of chaos. And for example, I've got a post that I had been creating to go out. It's not went out yet, but if we think about the soul knows what we really need. The soul has this deep connection. It's, if we can connect to the soul, the higher self, and to the highest elements of the universe and divinity and light and that God aspect, if we can connect into that, the world is an oyster. There is so many possibilities and magic and all sorts of opportunities, because there's free channel and you are connected, at a higher vibration. But when we start connecting, for example, with the head, with our wounding, with our behavior patterns, our thoughts, and we get caught up in all about the mind. The mind is limited. The mind is programmed, the mind is conditioned, and the mind often thinks it knows what it wants. And often it's the ego that is controlling the mind. Now, when, for example, if there's something we desire, and it's coming from pure intent and it comes from the light, it flows, and the energy can come in a way that is so natural, and it does manifest in a very easy, gentle way, in a beautiful way. But when we try and it makes us open, so it makes us kind of flexible in a way and adaptable, that we're going with the flow, right? But when you think about it from a state of dis-ease, chaos, anxiety, fear, what does it do? It creates chaos. It manifests in all sorts of ways, and often pushes us into behaving ways that are not really the essence of this. So if you think about a child, and I use this kind of analogy a lot to explain things to my students, but if you think about behavior patterns, right? As children, when we grow up, we all form different strong behavior patterns, right? We all, if you can imagine, like, for example, the seven dwarfs, right? That was a running joke, because there were seven sisters, 7 girls, and then there was 2 boys, and we played in a dance school the 7 dwarfs, right? And and it was, so we were all given different roles. Interesting, I was given the doc role, right? And if you think about, if you have siblings, right, if you have friends, and you think about all your different personalities, and you think about people's strong traits when things are not going right, when they're in fear, everyone behaves differently, right, in many ways. And we all have different survival skills. So you have people that fall into more aggressive, and some people that, withdraw, some people use humor, we're all different, right? And I know that's just simplifying it. But we, in many ways, we're taking on patterns, behavior patterns that are not really our essence. We are shape-shifting into something to survive. And often that form comes with negative shadow traits, right? And when a child is pushed into a corner and it doesn't know what else to do to survive, it adapts. it becomes flexible, but sometimes that adaptability and that flexibility is negative. So if we look at the shapeshifter in its negative state, right, projecting any image that serves your personal agenda in the moment, but it also, so if we think about, if a child wants to appear as if they're brave, they may not feel brave, but guess what? They act like the big, they start to act as if they're brave, right? So they're trying to put on that persona, right? And we all do it. So even in business, I remember when I first started my business, I had been, it was actually so, it was exciting, but it was so scary for me because I had spent a large part of so many years before that being bed and housebound, losing a lot of confidence, having mobility issues. I had periods where I would lose full control of my body, I would go paralyzed. And then I was so excited about getting this new opportunity, and I wanted so much to be part of the world and part of society. But also, part of me felt like a little girl. Part of me felt a bit lost, disconnected from the rest of the world. And I remember I'm always someone, it's been a bit of a giggler, right? I kind of, in that way, I suppose people kind of say I've got a childlike side to me. And I remember my mum being very concerned. And I come from a strong family business background, and and I'm grateful for that. And, and I've got good role models. But I remember my mum looking at me as if to say, she's not going to be business woman, she's not going to in it. And I remember her saying to me, Eileen, you'll need to straighten up. You can't act like this. You can't do this. You need to be. And so suddenly I found myself going in and trying to be something I wasn't. And it took me many years to realize I was put on the suit. Now, of course, there's certain things we can help to increase our confidence, but I also recognized as someone who studied self-development, personal development over 30 years, ago, was the personal development, the self-development industry is a great start as to get us on the spiritual and help us evolve. But a lot of it's based on ego, because a lot of it is based on pretending at a core level. There's a difference trying to project a vision and manifest a vision, and then actually pretending at a level of something, not being honest with yourself. And unfortunately, I did recognize that. I just didn't know how to get around about it. And it was one of the things that when I get into the stress management sector, I saw at such a degree, particularly because a lot of stress management comes from the coaching, the kind of more business coaching side and productivity and things like that. And so original, if you think about what some of the stress management philosophies, even though obviously we in the holistic field use more spiritual ways of being to manage stress, but most when I first started out and started studying stress management 30 years ago, it was based on certain ideas, right? And like as all, it took me many years to recognize the layers of the face that I put on, and we all do it. She still, no matter how far and how much work we do, there's still layers to that, right? And the shapeshifter is on one level the ability for us to flow and to adapt and to be creative. If you think about a child, when a child is in flow, when a child is free, when a child is just being, the child can do all sorts of things because it has a level of belief. There's no stress. And it's not got someone else's projections, but soon as other people put their projections onto you, push you into stress, push you into anxiety, push you into fear, what happens? The child starts to play up. The child starts to be something it's not. And the child can start holding, and it's like it takes on these shells of behavior. Now, in business, it's the same. We can go into business wanting to be yourself, but we've got to understand we have to have the ability to crack through a lot of illusions, and we have to be able to, as part of the spiritual path, be honest with ourselves in areas that we are deluded, right? Or create an illusion, right? And we all do it to different degrees, and there's obviously some areas we'll find really easy and some areas that we don't, and that's just life. But I know for someone that and I see this a lot, like I've got quite a few friends who, just to do with their circumstances, became very flexible and resourceful. I would say me and the sister that's just below me are what you would call extremely resourceful and very adaptable in business. And I have a friend who's similar. She has a lot of bows to her string, and she's learned to be very flexible and adaptable. But we have discussed this before. But the reality, that level of flexibility and adaptability is not always healthy, because it can be the ego. And what happens, you're just an adapter constantly. Now, in stress management, the more adaptable you can be, actually, it's a real strong resilience tool. But if you look at every opportunity just to change, just to adapt, you may not recognize when you're not in the flow. And that was one of the biggest challenges that I had in my life, because I was so used to having so many challenges in my life, and so used to having to adapt and change, to do with disabilities, to do with all sorts of things that happened, was that I was constantly changing. I remember my mum at one time in my life, when I just went through so much, and my mum saying to me, which I was so shocked at the time, she said, I reminded her of the phoenix, who always come back out of the ashes. But she would say, but you always come out reformed, as if. And I remember when I was younger, I studied fashion design and dressmaking and all that, and I would be like the Madonna style one week, and then it would be somebody else the next week, and it would be somebody else the next week. And I would take fabric, and I would be reluctant to cut it. Now, sounds insane, but what I would do was do whatever I could with that fabric as many times as I could, and make it into like a sari, and do all sorts of things, a scarf or whatever, before I needed to cut it, so it could be adaptable. So we can be adaptable, and it's really important in business. And I think in the current energy, what I'm trying to explain through this is to help you see there's a certain level of flexibility and energy and flow that keeps us, and we can keep in that channel. It's dead exciting. And that's part of the universal path, is not knowing all the ins and outs, and not maybe knowing the end of our journey. The more we can be more open, and a certain amount of flexibility when it comes from source, when it comes from the light, keeps us going and makes life more exciting. But when we feel we have to adapt, there's a different energy. There's an energy of shift and flowing when it's flowing through us. But when we feel we have to take on, we feel we have to, we feel we need to, we feel we must, or we are not facing, we're basically not facing the shadow element. What are we creating? We're creating illusion, right? Or it's when we want to be more like someone else, or we want to do something like someone else. We're taking on a false energetic pattern that is not us, right? So I hope this helps. I think that we are entering more, we're looking at what everything's going on. We are in the middle of things at the moment. There is things really ready, and different layers of consciousness. People are at the moment starting to become more aware and start to kind of understand aspects of the consciousness and the different layers. It's like almost the layers are starting to become, it's like a fog, and people are starting to see that there is different layers to things, and that maybe how they perceive things, even in the spiritual community, how we are taught something and how we perceive something can be two different things, right? And until we are ready to see past the fog and we can start seeing through the layers, we're only seeing it from a certain perspective. Now, when we trust in the flow, we don't get too much caught up in that, right? But when we're in a state of fear and anxiety, we think we have to control everything, right? And that control can mean that we deceive ourselves, or we deceive other people, or we try to be something that we're not really naturally meant to be, because we all have our own mission and our own purpose. And if you get back to, and this is why I go on about it all the time, the more that we can connect at a soul level, because it's not just about the mind. People go on about having a positive mind, but if you're not able to connect to your own soul and your essence, if you can't connect to your own inner guidance, you are constantly just trying to fix the mind, to shape it towards external paths that are out, instead of connecting in with your path, with your inner compass. Things are far more easier when you're in your own inner compass, but of course we all get lost, we all get distracted, and it's the inner child coming up, the wounding, and different things about, different archetypes can come up and show up in different ways. Okay, so remember, the more that we do get into the flow, we can shift through different energies of the collective. We can shift the chaos through the chaos. We can rise above the chaos. We can be supported, and we can get through things that we never thought was possible when we're in the flow, when we are connected at, at that higher level. But when we are constantly trying to control from the mind and from the ego, it tends to take on a more chaotic or negative form. Okay, bye for now, everyone. Okay, take care.